Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Some of the sources I'll use today: YouTube, Space Weather, formerly Suspicious Observers, Stephen Burns, Israeli News Live, Health Runner, Breitbart. Some of the things we'll cover: Alaska, EVACs, and where for the next Carrington hit, and President Trump strategic plan for Venezuela. So let's get started. We're going to begin with the U.S. and what's going on in Alaska. So we have Alaska here, the Aleutian Islands. We have a location here, Bethel, and a location here, Anchorage. Currently, the Alaska National Guard is evacuating thousands of people from Bethel to Anchorage. This has to do with a hit by a Pacific Ocean typhoon, Hapong, that happened a few days ago that gave this area, Bethel, a 10-foot storm surge. So they've had massive flooding there. It's good to be in prayer for these people who are being evacuated. And we have this from YouTube, Space Weather, formerly Suspicious Observers. He reviews a white paper on the next upcoming Carrington event. He notes the map that was produced by the U.S. where the Carrington event would hit. Carrington event happened in the 1850s and was the result of space weather impacting the Earth's electromagnetic shield. And at that time, we just had telegraphs, and many telegraph operators were actually executed. But it took down the telegraph wire system. A similar Carrington event on the world today would likely take out the power grid, internet, GPS, cell phones, and so forth. So this is a good map. I know Ben Davidson notes the map was produced based on the old electromagnetic shield that was much stronger than the one we have now. But the map is useful, and it shows Texas would remain virtually unhit. So that's good to know. But I encourage you to look at the map on Space Weather YouTube site. Where would the next Carrington hit? And we have this. We still have incoming from space, 3 CMEs plus a solar wind to produce a G2. Now it's anticipated storm today or tomorrow. It's anticipated we have stronger X flares coming. And that with this G2, later today or tomorrow, we could see auroras down to about the mid-U.S. We have this, yes, so we're having the space weather going on, and we're seeing now some things going on with regard to earthquakes. So we have Antarctica, South America, coming down like this. In this area, we have Drake Passage. We've had another large earthquake there, 6.6, shallow. We're having along the Ring of Fire, which covers the U.S. West Coast, along this area, down to Japan, Indonesia. We're having significant volcanoes go off in Indonesia, putting plumes out 5,000 to 6,000 feet in the air. So we're seeing unrest along the Ring of Fire. So that's going on. And we have 31 or 3I Atlas still incoming. According to Israeli News Live, Ben Danoon, former CIA, more information coming in. That the size, according to some sources, including Stephen Burns, geophysicist, the size of the main mothership, so we have something like that, plus other ships around it, is 5 to 50 kilometers. That's miles across. We also have information coming out from Elon Musk, SpaceX, that sent up a probe to see what's going on with Atlas. We look forward to getting the information from that. From the National Hurricane Center, they show nothing. Lorenzo is gone. From the Atlantic. Now, we'll note this, that we have some independent weather sources who are talking about a tropical disturbance wave that could produce in the Caribbean. We know this is where the U.S. military is mounting, it's believed, for a potential invasion of Venezuela. But these independent weather sources are saying we could have, in a week, a tropical disturbance in the Caribbean. National Hurricane Center is not showing anything about it yet. We have this from Hal Turner. So I believe we're seeing with space weather, earthquake, volcanoes, earth changes on the earth, that we are seeing a cycle that we've seen historically in the past. And during this cycle, we do have a cycle for war. We have a cycle for impacts on economies. So with regard to the U.S. economy, the Federal Reserve, according to Hal Turner's intel, is down to zero cash in the Federal Reserve. This could lead to a liquidity crisis among U.S. banks. Now, I believe U.S. banks are safe. This has to do with a U.S. National liquidity event that's far above our local banks. And Hal Turner puts forth a sign that a bank may be having liquidity problems is that they cut credit, even to good customers. Well, I can say in Texas, we're not seeing that. But at any rate, we know the Federal Reserve is not part of the federal government. It's controlled by the deep state financial center out of London. And I believe it's part of President Trump's strategy to strengthen the economy of America during this government shutdown is to get rid of the Fed. Way to go, President Trump. Put the U.S. government, U.S. Treasury in charge of our national economy. And we have this also from Hal Turner, that states have been sent a letter from the U.S. government as a result of this government shutdown by the Dems, that beginning November 1, federal money to the states, that the states would use to give SNAP and EBT cards to individuals. This is like food allowance or extra food charge cards the state gives to individuals who apply based on their economy, based on their income. what is their eligibility. Now, it's believed in many of the blue states that they have tens of thousands of illegals illegally receiving SNAP and EBT benefits. But according to the government information, 42 million Americans receive SNAP and EBT charge cards to help them buy groceries at the grocery store. The feds are cutting off the money November 1 to the states. The states administer the SNAP and EBT card programs. So that means the states are going to have to come up with the money. So that's going on. We have this from BREITBART. The Department of Homeland Security has been authorized to hire up to 10,000 additional ICE agents. They've already hired 5,000. President Trump wants to see a dramatic increase in the number of illegals being deported and arrested. So that's going on. And we have this, Best and Taylor. Okay. Yes, we do have earth changes going on. We've had in ongoing, so we have South America. We've had what's been called the South Atlantic Anomaly, and that means the electromagnetic shield in this area years ago was down to 120 miles above the Earth. I submit it's most likely much closer to the Earth. That's what I believe. But that it has been spreading. Now, I've already put out in the last 2 years this South Atlantic anomaly, this dip in the electromagnetic shield, which means there's much more radiation reaching the Earth from the sun in areas where the electromagnetic shield is much closer to the Earth. I put out 2 years ago it had already spread to Europe. I believe I had sources that it had split and spread. And also we had information from Stan DEYO, a geophysicist, that it had also split and spread across Africa to the area of the Canary Islands, in between South Africa and America. So now we have other sources saying, yeah, it's enlarging, and it's now up to the tip of Africa. So let me redraw this a little bit better. We have South America, we have Africa, we have the U.S. We already have information from reliable sources that the South Atlantic anomaly had already split and gone up to Europe and had enlarged and come over to the area of the Canary Islands. So now we have sources saying, yeah, it's getting bigger, and it's going from South America now to the tip of Africa. Okay. I submit that in the past 2 years, I go with this pattern of enlargement that I have researched, and I find it interesting that now government sources are saying, yeah, it's enlarged, it's almost up to Africa. Okay, shut up. So we have that going on. We have 3-Eye Atlas, according to Best and Taylor, some predictions from Nostradamus that space event would be happening that would coincide with on the Earth a pole shift, which we're seeing right now, and that we would see planets or space objects come in, many with familiar names such as Planet X Nibiru. And Best and Taylor also cite the information from Nostradamus correlates to the book of Enoch, and that we could see by 2046 Planet X Nibiru. I believe we're in that time frame. Do I believe we're going to have these catastrophic Earth events as we've seen in the past? I believe it's up to the people of God on Earth and their prayers. We can pray against this. Now, what are we seeing going on now in Venezuela? We've seen the U.S. military situating themselves for what appears to be the U.S. invading Venezuela. We understand politically its purpose is a regime change to take out Maduro and other things. And we have this coming out from Zero Hedge. President Trump has participated in a strategic plan put forth by his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and his CIA Director, John Ratcliffe, for the CIA and the U.S. military intel to infiltrate Venezuela, with the objective being to set up for the invasion of Venezuela, and the goal is regime change. So that's going on. We have this, and Mel Gibson is getting ready for a sequel to his great movie, The Passion, and has begun filming the new movie that's entitled Resurrection of the Christ. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.